right. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Welcome, everyone. Today, our program that we're dealing with today is the rise and ruin of Black media empire. So today, Doc, we are diving deep into the critical weapon of institutional warfare. The media. Marcus Garvey taught us, and history proves, that whoever controls the record controls how people understand themselves and how everyone else understands them.
Yep.
In the 20th century, we saw the peak of Black-owned communication giants. Today, we look at what happened to them, not to mourn, but to extract the raw, unfiltered lessons of execution, ownership, and structural vulnerability. Today, we're going to be looking at John H. Johnson. In 1942, a 24-year-old man used a $500 loan secured against his mother's furniture to build what would become a $100 million empire. That is something big, from a $500 loan on his mama's furniture, and grew that into a $100 million empire. And it is gone today. So, Doc, dealing with Ebony and Jet, what was your first memory of seeing those magazines?
You know, the first time I encountered them, undoubtedly, was at relatives' houses. Even at our own home, everybody seemed to have a copy of Ebony and Jet. It was almost as standard within a household as you would those wooden spoons, those big old oversized wooden spoons that every Black person seems to have hanging somewhere in their kitchen. So it was standard, and I am to this day what I would argue is a mama's boy, and so I was always with my mother, regardless of what was going on. Saturday morning we would go. She would go to the mall. I would be with her. Friday evening, we would go to the grocery store. I would be with her. And so I say that to say this, that when we went to the grocery store, it was the highlight of my little perverted day, my perverted week, when I saw that Jet magazine there when you were checking out, And I would try to read the sports section in the Jet magazine, but when you open Jet, it was constructed differently. It wasn't glued together; it was stapled together. And so, you staple. I guess you construct it by stapling in the middle of it, and lo and behold, in the middle was the beauty of the week. So I had to look at that to be able to find where the sports were. So that's my first real memory of those magazines.
Exactly. Same for me, going over my grandma's house, and they were on the table. And going and looking into it.
All out.
Exactly. Exactly. Making sure I get to see who the beauty of the week is. That's the first thing I want to see. But that was I guess you could say a mirror, maybe, into Black America. Would you agree with that, Doc?
No, certainly. Most certainly. I mean, the memory, the legacy, the heritage of Essence, Jet, Ebony, they were our collective voice. They were what they were what notified and informed Black America about what was happening within Black America. Pretty much in the exact same way that you see today. Fox News. Fox News is the thing that dispenses information and notifies the MAGA crowd about what's happening, their version of what's happening, how you should view it, how you should feel about it, and where do we go from here. That's what those black periodicals were. They're coming out of that same vein. We talk about the idea of manufacturing consent.
Mm-hmm.
That was manufacturing consent. You talk to black folk who were alive during I would say from the age of maybe 5
Mm-hmm.
on up, ask them, do they remember the Emmett Till photo?
Mm-hmm.
Because it was only Jet magazine that published the Till photo, the unfinished, untouched, and that we don't give it enough credit,
Right.
but that angered black folk, not just those in Chicago and from Mississippi, but throughout the entire world. That angered us, that motivated us. And at its best, that's what black media is for. That's what black media does. It informs, it in many ways dictate how you should be looking at this. How should you be feeling about what should you be talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the difference right now between, and we principally have two camps going on. The first camp is the Cheyenne Bryant fallout.
Mm-hmm.
Sister saying she got a PhD, she can't prove she got a PhD. That's all that you hear on the black internet right about now. Versus at the exact same time, the attacks upon black voting rights,
Mm-hmm.
the 1965 Voting Rights Act being taken to task, the gerrymandering that is going on in the U.S. Supreme Court's culpability in allowing that to occur. Instead of dealing with, if we still had an independent Ebony and Jet
Mm-hmm.
essence, that's what we would be talking about. Versus what we are talking about, which is Cheyenne Bryant, T.I.'s son,
Mm-hmm.
this and that. Those are diversionary things, and they're really in many ways popular culture type things that really are not worthy of our time or our attention during this very critical moment in Black life.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you brought up the voting rights situation. Since you bring it up, I do want to touch on that for a little bit. What actually did we lose with the Supreme Court striking some parts of it down? What did we actually lose, if anything?
Well, one of the and I'm sure that you've heard what's going on, Mac. I'm sure you've heard me say this before. The March on Washington speech that Dr. King gave,
Mm-hmm.
I call it the worst speech that King ever gave, arguably the worst speech Black folk have ever given. Okay. And it's not because of the content of it. Okay. I don't have a big problem with a lot of the King's content in that film, in that speech. But what happened to the speech? When you get up there, and this is why it's very important and very careful for you to be right and exact with the words that you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
because what happened with that speech, and I'm going to segue into the Voting Rights Act thing after this. What happens with King's speech is that 20, 30 years behind it, really a decade behind it, you have the very people that King is addressing when he talks about the content of our character, utilizing that line and saying, "Well, I'm actually on the side of Dr. King because what I want all affirmative action, all I want all Americans to be judged by the content of their character."
Mm-hmm.
Now you know damn well that's not what King meant,
Mm-hmm.
but it makes a hell of a soundbite. So when you fast forward what we're dealing with the Voting Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act prevented discrimination based upon race. You couldn't discriminate against people. You can't prevent them from political from the ballot from having the franchise based upon race. And historically speaking, we know who that was aimed at.
Mm-hmm.
Just like we know with the 14th Amendment, we know who that was targeted and aimed at. When you're talking about birthright citizenship, that is Black folk
Mm-hmm.
who were enslaved here and their descendants were. We know who that's targeted at. So that's not even, just use your common sense. But what's happening now is that they've been able to seize this. And the only reason they've been able to seize it because it's the same silly and stupid argument. Only reason that it works is because of who you have on the U.S. Supreme Court. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's this itching to, anything that they can do to set back the hands of time to the point where white folk were, their type of white folk were running things exclusively. Now the argument and what we've lost with the Voting Rights Act is the idea of creating districts that are aimed at ensuring, and you got to remember that we're talking about a representative democracy. We're talking about a republic that is set up to protect minority groups so that you can avoid what Lonnie Guinier called the tyranny of the majority.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now what they're saying is that the fact that you're creating districts that ensure the inclusion of Black folk, of Black representation, you're discriminating against white folk now. That's what you're doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit a reset button. We're going to redraw the maps, and voila, those maps are going to eradicate, remove any Black political representation. You'll still have voice, but you'll never win. Clyburn, brother out of South Carolina, they got his district. He's done. Okay. South Carolina has been brutal. Okay, they're getting rid of Jasmine Crockett. They got her district. Okay, and what's going on, and this is probably the most angering thing about the Democratic Party, is that you want to win with dignity. You better pick up Al Davis's old mantra with the Raiders. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Right.
Now you know that Jack Tatum, Hendricks, all of them cats, okay, broke every law, every rule within the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And now you can sit up and you can say, "Oh, look at what they had to do to win." Yeah, but they still won.
Right.
And that's what we're looking at right now. And so the erosion of the belief of minority groups, especially Black folk, and the power of the vote plays directly into their hands. They can't win on numbers. So they have to win these other ways. And they don't have no shame about it. They're willing to win those other ways because they understand that the ultimate goal is for us to, at the end of the day, be the ones who are making these decisions about what's going on. And when I say decisions, the laws. Our people have lost faith, by and large, in the vote. Go back and listen to, and the kind of the fact that it's so pervasive within our culture of the futility of voting. Go back and listen to Andre 3000, one of the songs of Outkast, when he says, "Why go out and vote? Because ain't nobody running but crackers." And it's a very difficult thing to get our people to understand the worth and utility of voting. And if we don't participate in the political system, we're done. I'm always reminded by what Chairman Fred Hampton said, Black Panther Party Chicago branch. Hampton says that war is nothing but politics with bloodshed. And politics is nothing but war without bloodshed. We're at war.
Mm-hmm.
And silly minded Negroes are not aware that we're at war. They're not aware of that. They think that life is just going on. And the great phrase, who stole the soul? Whoever
Right.
stole the soul, they definitely stole it from black folk, to the point
Mm.
where we don't even acknowledge each other when we see each other.
Mm.
There are rare fleeting blips of black solidarity. There isn't even black solidarity within the race. You got black men attacking black women, and black
Mm.
women attacking black men. Then you got the LGBTQ throwing their words in there. And never do we ever get down to the brass tacks and talk about the fact that we are black.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's I was in Kumasi in Ghana, and met a dear friend. She was one of two African Americans who were living in Kumasi. Her name is Miriama Ross. If anybody meets Miriama Ross, tell her I said, what's going on? However, Dr. Ross arranged for me to meet her students.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, watch this. And she goes in front of her students. And this is really, I'm talking about the idea of what black actually means to us versus other people.
Okay.
She goes in front of her students and she says, I am black. And Dr. Ross is about my complexion. And they busted out laughing. They said, no, Dr. Ross, you're not black. You're not black. You're not black, Dr. Ross. You're like tan. You're beige.
Mm.
Versus in the American context, when we say that we're black, it's a political declaration.
Right.
It is a here I stand statement and moment. That here I stand. These are my people. This is who I'm going to stand with.
Mm-hmm.
Other groups don't have, and other people around the globe that are the numerical majority don't have to do that. We have to stand together. We do not stand together, we're going to perish. And you're going to live. You're not going to, it's not vote or die, but it is get politically active, or you will be marginalized to the point where you have no voice.
Mm. Our friend Ellie that lives over in Britain,
Uh-huh.
she messaged me and she was like, "Oh no, are y'all gonna be okay? They got rid of the Voting Rights Act, so y'all not gonna be allowed to vote no more. They're gonna kick y'all out of the country. Y'all not gonna be citizens." And she shared where this Louisiana, I think it was a Louisiana state senator or representative in the state house, said something to the effect that the Supreme Court got rid of parts of the Voting Rights Act,
Mhm.
that he's waiting for them to get rid of the 14th Amendment.
Yep.
And I told her, well, to my understanding, the Supreme Court can't get rid of the 14th Amendment. That would have to be done by Congress for both houses. I think got to get 2/3.
But wait a minute, hold on. Can a president take us to war?
Technically, he can't claim it a war.
A president cannot declare war.
Right, Congress.
But ain't that where we at? And I say that kind of to say that when it comes to them and what they want to do,
Mm-hmm.
do as I say, not as I do. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
They're going to do whatever they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And now you try to figure it out on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of what's going on right now with Trump suing the IRS for $10 billion.
Mm-hmm.
But he's willing to let that go if the Department of Justice, which he controls,
Right.
needs to create a fund worth, get this, $1 1776. They're tying into the icons of American patriotism, of in many ways whiteness. 1.776 billion, because he wants to give $1 billion to every person who $1 million to every person who was prosecuted by the Biden administration's Department of Justice for the January riots.
What?
Yes, that's his new thing. So now you're sitting here, and the argument is what you're saying. Well, no, that can't happen because only Congress could do. But well, isn't it only Congress that can take us to war?
Right.
These people gonna do whatever it is that they want to do, and they're gonna twist, they're gonna turn, they're gonna switch the rules around. They're gonna do whatever they want to do. I mean, what's that great Christian saying? It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Mm-hmm.
Oops.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know I couldn't do that. Well, you've already done it.
Right.
And nobody is holding their feet to the fire where you can say, well, this is going to be your punishment for what it is that you just did. We ain't had that conversation at all.
Right.
Okay, Epstein files were supposed to be released. Oops.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get to it in time. We can't go to war. I can't send our troops. We can't attack Iran. Oops. And so that's kind of when you talk about the being a literalist,
Mm-hmm.
that the Constitution literally says that you can't do this.
Right.
That's only applicable when you have people who are going to honor the Constitution. Remember the guy that they deported, and the judge had told them, no, you cannot deport this guy because he had done nothing. He had caught up in the ICE raid. They put his ass on a plane and sent him anyway.
Right.
And while the plane was in the air, you got Rubio, you got Trump, you got all Vance, you got all of the leaders, the so-called leaders of this country, tweeting, oops, our bad. So what's the response to that? What's the response to a child who you told them to clean up their room and they don't clean up their room?
Mm-hmm.
And they look at you in the face and be like, oops, my bad. If there's no enforcement that comes after that, they're the ones in power.
But that. I don't think Black people would sit around and let them just get rid of the 14th Amendment and be quiet about it.
Okay. Tell me what they're gonna do about it. What they're gonna do against it. Give me. Open up the Black playbook and tell me what Black folk are gonna do about it. I would be shocked if the majority of Black folk, considering the education or the lack of education, as Carter G. Woodson would say, the miseducation within our community, I'd be shocked if Black people can tell you what the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment even say. They'll become aware of it when it hits the Black internet. They trying to put Black people up out of here.
Right.
An announcement is definitely not a plan. So let me know what y'all got planned, because I don't plan on being here. Okay, I'm either gonna be out of the country or I'm gonna hide in plain sight in like Utah or Colorado. And I'm gonna just be there. I'm gonna be there, and that that's just where I'm gonna be. And I'm gonna have a food delivery service. Internet, I'm good money. What y'all gonna do? Give me the plan. The Black folk ain't gonna let that happen.
No, I think at that point, I believe that they would begin to really riot for real. They would do things that would be very aggressive
What?
and physical at
Like
that
what?
point.
Like
Like,
what?
you know, going up to these people's houses, dragging them up out of their houses, because then your whole protection is gone. You know, you might as well load them up on the boats and send them over there to Cuba and put them in the damn cages that they had the so-called terrorists in. Because you ain't get the 14th Amendment go, you in trouble, buddy.
Let
And
me
I
give
don't
you.
think
Let me
they
give
would
you.
they
Let me
would
give you. Let me give you the argument of how to cool your people out.
mm,
The 14th Amendment is not aimed at the removal of the 14th Amendment is not aimed at harming black folk. What it's aimed at is going ahead and lessening the browning of this nation.
mhm,
We are going after brown people with this because these brown people who come here, what they're doing, they're taking the black jobs.
mhm.
The jobs that black men would do as far as construction, those types of things. We ain't gonna throw agriculture in there because brothers are gonna be like, whoa, hold on. But
Hmm.
these jobs that you see these brown people doing, we're gonna get them up out of here. By removing the 14th Amendment, what it will allow us to do, and you tell me if this is not a good thing for black folk,
Hmm.
okay? We're going to disrupt because if we say anything, one of the greatest mistakes that white folk made when they went into South America and Central America, they took Catholicism with them.
Hmm.
Okay, so now you didn't turn these brown people into a foreign religion. That
Hmm.
wasn't a religion.
Right.
Okay, so they don't believe in birth control or
Hmm.
abortion. So they have a plan, black folk. This is what they do. They come over here, they get pregnant, then they have a baby. Now that baby is now considered what they call an anchor baby.
Hmm.
So now the parents are now American citizens as well. That's wrong. And
Hmm.
we're going to correct this by getting rid of the 14th Amendment. Now you can't tell me that your people are not going to say, huh, I never thought about it like that. So y'all getting rid of the 14th Amendment to get rid of these Mexicans? Yeah, that's what we get. That's what we doing. You give it enough time, we gonna wipe the streets clean of them. So them jobs that you see them doing, they gonna be your jobs. Do you not think that black folk, because if black folk are nothing else, they're Americans.
Hmm.
Do you not think that they will fall in line and they will say, to hell with what's just and right? What's best for us?
Hmm. Hmm. You know, and I can follow that. But the thing is, with the 14th Amendment, though, that is the amendment that actually, took away Dred Scott decision and allowed us to be citizens, right?
You think
If my memory,
you think that you going back to slavery?
I mean,
Come
if
on,
you take
silly
that
Negro.
away,
Come on, silly Negro. You're
if,
not
if,
going back to
if you take
slavery.
it away, but that am I correct though with
It's
the history? It
yes,
was
yes,
to.
but what you're talking about is birthright citizenship.
Hmm.
Okay, if you are born here, okay, you are automatically a citizen. That's what
Hmm.
we're talking about. Negroes are not coming into this nation to have, although I do know, I can tell you a story about a African that I know, are not coming in here, you know, for those purposes. But
Hmm.
what what the argument is going to be is this is a good thing for America. Therefore, it's a good thing for you. It'll be fewer people here, fewer brown people here. And we're not going to get rid of the 14th Amendment. What we're going to do is we're going to do a slight alteration to it. Okay, now hear me out.
Hmm.
You become a citizen here in this nation if Your daddy and your grandparents were citizens.
Mm-hmm.
If they weren't, then we got to evaluate you, and you're going to have to go through a process. Because if your parents are not, I mean, how cruel is this? It brings a tear to my heart to consider that you bastards would be so cruel as to allow a child to be born here and separated from their parents. So what we're going to do, because we're pro-family, we're going to keep the family together.
Mm.
So if you have your little Guatemalan here, okay, and we send you back, meaning the parents,
Mm-hmm.
we wouldn't dare keep that little bundle of joy away from you.
Mm.
Now, you cannot tell me that a people who have been economically marginalized the way we have,
Mm-hmm.
politically marginalized, would not listen to such an argument. And MAGA, if y'all want me to do that again for y'all in the coming years, I am for sale. Okay, I can get up there and I can say just what I said for y'all. Okay, involve me in the grift. Okay, all that I will do it. Does that not sound like something that, if it is repeated over and over again to the point where it becomes like an urban legend, that many Black folk would say, going with that?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, fuck them people.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like us anyway. They come here and you're off, and you're off to the races with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately, when you look at this nation has turned into one where tribalism is the political language.
Mm-hmm.
It is predicated upon getting the other side and improving your position. Because look here, we're 13% of the population, correct?
According to what they say, I believe we're more than that.
Okay, well, what number you want to use?
Yeah, I would say at least we should be by this time, 40%, if not
40%.
Yeah.
No, I can't go to the land of ridiculousness with you. Okay, I'm gonna give you 15. Okay, I'm gonna give you 2%. Okay, just in case there were some brothers who didn't participate in the census, and didn't answer the door when that white man came knocking on the door, trying to see how many Negroes lived in that house. Think about it. Because you big into politics, right? Political power, this and that. Think of it now. I don't want you to catch the Holy Ghost when I say this to you.
Okay.
Okay. But imagine if there were no Mexicans here. Do you know, by removing the Mexicans, what that would do for the Black percentage? You would be immediately vaulted back up into the favorite minority category. You would be white folks' pet again. When I say it's 13, you say it's 15, it would probably raise you up to about 25 to 30%. Get them up out of here. And all you're going to need is a charismatic fool like Umar. That's all you're going to need for that to occur. So the 14th Amendment, it's going to be altered. Because in every way, you have something going on within this nation, and we know this to be true. Number one, white folk, you talk about Iran, you talk about these, I refuse to use the word Middle Eastern, these Northern African nations attacking the U.S. Okay, you talk about Cuba attacking the U.S. This is just a theory. I believe that and Abraham Lincoln says this, but being truthfully, Lincoln was talking about something different. I'm not going to try to say that this is what Lincoln meant, but I believe this to be true. He says America will never fall from an external aggressor. She'll fall from within.
Okay.
I believe because we're in a nation of one man, one vote. if white folk lose political control as far as being the overwhelming majority population,
Mm-hmm.
shit, they'll set off them atomic bombs right here.
Mm. Mm.
That'll be it. Kind of like what JFK talked about, the Cuban Missile Crisis. If missiles are put on the island of Cuba, the world is over.
Mm.
Clearly, people who would rather rule in hell than serve in heaven. They are not interested today, tomorrow, or any day with sharing power with anyone. They don't even want to they don't even want to share power with each other.
Right. Right.
A, a Mexican president? Are you out your mind? I mean, really think about that.
Mm.
You know, one of my homeboys, he said the only reason Barack got in there is because he's mulatto.
Mm.
You know, and it's just what they are not interested in sharing power. And if they put you in a position of power, rest assured, they can take care of you. That's the thing that we never really talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that white folks and Jews, look here, they got some hospitality. Okay, you want to talk about ruining a Negro's expectations? Let the Jews get a hold of him. I was up there at the United States. I told you I was at the United States Holocaust Memorial. I was in such an exclusive place. When I went outside and sat on a bench, the police came. Okay, I'm up in some fly stuff. Living room, dining room, 2 vanities, 3 bedrooms, all for me. I go to one of these little conferences and it ain't even no kitchen area in it. Oh, man, I'm disappointed. Yeah, I got the Uber Eats because I'm dealing with black folk now. Okay. But if they choose you, they can make, and there's a great line. Well, in many ways, it's the entire trajectory of the book. The autobiography of an ex-colored man, where the white guy tells the protagonist, listen, I can make your life so great that you wouldn't want to go back to being black. Okay. Can you imagine that?
Wow.
That I could give you so many material things, which is what it is that you really want. You want to live a life of luxury, I can give it to you. No cost is too much. But you got to do what I tell you to do.
Exactly.
Or what you know that I need for you to do. Is that not a synopsis of Clarence Thomas? This Negro, you think, and this is a statement that nobody ever thought that you could say in America. That Negro grifts at a level like he a Trump. Okay, he takes it all. You know, he look at buy my mama's house. He's doing stuff where there's a paper trail because they put their hand on his shoulder and they said, "Don't you worry about that, Clarence. Don't you worry about it." And so it's a part of the system, and the system is, I'm not going to say it is rigged. Let me say that. But the system has transformed itself to the point where its primary goal is survival. The system is alive. Okay. And what we see with the Voting Rights Act attack, that system is in every way reshaping and revamping itself. We need for black folk to no longer have any voice, because what we're getting ready to do is we're getting ready to remove all their voting rights and all their voting privileges. You ain't got to worry about them putting Negroes out the country. They ain't gonna do that. Because they need a permanent worker underclass. So you'll be here. Okay, who gonna make their chalupa when they go to Taco Bell? Who gonna clean? Who gonna come Thanksgiving and Christmas? Who gonna clean and season them chitlins up that they like to eat? Your grandmother. Period.
Wow. I hear that, but I still would not put it past them to try to move on us.
Past two white folks.
To move on us to get us up out of here as well. And
Name me a nation that would willingly accept black people.
I don't know any.
That's my point. You want to talk about World War III? Let the U.S. Tell NATO, okay, so what we gonna do is we gonna give each one of y'all 10% of the black folk that we got in America and see if they don't pick up arms. Black people don't even want to live next to black people. Nah, they're gonna keep you in what are really colonies, black sections of cities, and they can control you there. They will control you there, and it's to their benefit to have you here. And one of the foremost benefits of having you here is that prisons are big business. I come from a prison community. Okay. They can put a prison. You used to have these things called company towns that you would find in West Virginia, where they would a company would buy a coal mine, and they would build the town around the coal mine. There was nothing else that was out there. And these poor people would have to come to that area. They would get a job, and they were being paid in what they call company script. Okay. Wasn't really real money. It was like monopoly money. So it made no sense for you to get a bank account and for you to save it, because when you decided you was going to leave, you can't spend it nowhere else but right here in the company town. So you paid for, the company would give you housing, they would give you food, they had little stores and things like that, and you would take the company script and you would pay for your stuff there. Now you can argue as to if you was getting paid or not. That's a whole nother argument. Okay. But prisons and jails are the new company towns. They find places where, because nobody wants a prison in their community. Nobody really wants it in their town. So you put it 20, 25 miles outside of city proper. And then you let it be known, we hiring. Now, what do we need to make this happen? We need a whole bunch of people inside of here. So who we got? We got black, we got brown, regardless of class, socioeconomic status, and we got poor white folk. Round them up, even the children. Okay, because I don't know if you remember the case within the last couple of years of the judges who ended up getting put in prison themselves for filling up juvenile justice centers.
I remember.
Okay, because they were getting a kickback. That's the company town mantra. That's what they do. Okay, so there's a lot of benefit to having black people here. You can lock black people up, hire white people to watch them, hire white people to, you got a struggling bakery. Well, we're gonna give you this contract, and you produce the bread for the prison. Okay. Now we definitely need what? We need some keys. So we're gonna find a couple little key shops that we'll get you a $150,000, $200,000 contract. And black folk are going to benefit from this as well, because you're going to be the COs. You're going to be the mental health counselors. You're going to be the drug addiction people. So black folk ain't going nowhere. They're going to lock you up, but you see, like I said, I'm from a prison community. If you ever seen Shawshank Redemption, that's my hometown. Okay, that prison. I've been in that prison hundreds of times. Okay, I had an uncle or two who was always incarcerated. Okay, in the reformatory. That's what they referred to it, like they was going to reform these Negroes. Okay, but at the same time that I got uncles who are inmates, I got other uncles who are COs. So they would see each other on a daily basis. Yeah, he all right. I saw him today. It's big business. You know, and you're going to have to keep, and this is for, in many ways, the white psyche. You're going to have to come up with jobs for white people to do, because white people, by and large, you know, working class and above white folk, they feel that they earn their money because they work for it. You got to have something for them to do, you know. And I don't care if it's you got them digging ditches, like Richard Pryor said. White folk be out there digging ditches, feel like they got a job, they contributed to society, but they don't see the brothers that they bring, and they make them put all that dirt back in there. So when white folk get up the next day, they got a ditch that they can dig again. So you have to really, 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 really start thinking that when they're talking about the 14th Amendment, they're talking about getting rid of birthright citizenship. That ain't aimed at black folk. And there is an argument that could be made once you get past the initial black paranoia, that, hey, no, look here, Playboy, let me holler at you. This is actually a good thing for you. Because see, what it's going to say is, if your granddaddy was a citizen, then you good. So that means that Javier Velasquez, even though he was born here and he has some children here and some roots within this community, he's still up out of here. Because you got to be at least, what, 3 generations.
But Doc, even still with that, I don't see how it still wouldn't affect us, because even if it say, okay, your granddaddy had to be American, even when we were 3/5, we weren't American.
No, I said born here. Okay, well, I meant to say born here. But think about it this way. Let's go ahead and just remove it. Let's clean it up. Persons of African descent, who are what is it, that term? Because the term changes. Like we changed from Negro to colored and all of that. Foundationally black. If you're foundationally black, we're gonna put that in as one of the bylaws. You good.
Yeah, they would have to put something in there.
They'll put something in there. They're not trying to get rid of you. You're not voting, and you ain't having kids like them other folk are having. They have some kids. Okay, and that, yeah, you know, they got some kids. Go to any park on a Saturday or a Sunday. If it's free, they there. Go to Chuck E. Cheese. You know, it's just it's what it is. And see, there's a meaning behind something. There's an implied meaning behind a lot of things. Think about it this way. If we were to put up a store and we put it up for our people, but other people came and shopped at that store and bought up everything, how do we keep those other people from coming and doing that? We create some rules that would prevent them from coming, regardless of how draconian the rules are. We create rules, period. You know, I'll give you a perfect example of how a store in particular could do that. I got trapped in Sam's Club like 4 months ago. Okay, I'm an early riser, so I get up and I'm like, let me get to Sam's Club. I'm gonna get my gas. I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna get the little things that I need, this and that.
Right.
Got what I needed. Got to the checkout counter, and the thing wouldn't take my Sam's Club membership.
What?
Because I'm not a plus member. So I gotta wait until 10 o'clock before I can check out. You get what I'm saying? So now I'm walking around Sam's Club for 2 hours, wasting 2 hours of my day. You create rules. They're going to create a rule that says, well, if you're of non-black descent, not African, black, then none of this applies to you. And
Interesting.
I once again, I don't think that from a disassembled community, which is what we are, we
Mhm.
are a disassembled community, socially, culturally, politically, that you would ever find something that is egregious enough to get their attention in such a significant, substantial way that they could create a prolonged and lasting political movement. I don't think that Black folk have that in them. We have a flare up. They, we had a flare up when they when they got caught on tape beating Rodney King's ass the way they did.
Mhm.
We had a flare up, but after that, then what? Even Rodney said, "Stop it." Can't we all just get along?
Mhm.
But a prolonged, systemic, institutional battle, we don't have it. We started off talking about the Black media, Ebony, Jet, Essence, all of these Black media expressions gone because it couldn't be sustained. And let us not forget the Negroes that actually owe me like $100. Emerge magazine. Okay, I'm still pissed off about Emerge magazine. One of my colleagues at Ohio State, Lottie Joyner, she was a big wig with Emerge magazine. If I ever see Lottie Joyner, she gonna give me $100.
Mm.
Because I signed up for a 3-year subscription for Emerge magazine. Okay, and 3 days later, they announced that they was closing, bankruptcy.
Mhm.
Now, if Emerge magazine, Essence magazine aimed at Black women, Jet magazine aimed at Black people in general, cannot keep the doors open, what does that say
Mhm.
about our people and their seriousness? So I don't believe that we have it. I don't believe we have it in us. I believe that maybe 10% of us do. Maybe.
Mm.
That's a maybe, and I'm being generous because I
Mhm.
know that I'm talking to majority Black people.
Mm.
Okay.
That would be something very interesting. Um, I think we do. I think if the right pressure is applied, I think that Black people will do exactly what they're supposed to do in this context. I don't think they're going to go back to a day of, we're going to whoop your ass. You better not come to the voting spot. They're not going back to that kind of foolishness any longer. Um, so it really
Wait a
would
minute.
depend
Wait a minute.
how deep
But
they're
wait a
trying
minute.
to be this
Ain't
cut.
that what's going on now?
No, ain't no Black person getting told you better not come and vote, or we're gonna beat your ass if you come vote.
Oh, yes, they are.
Where is that being said at?
Do you have proper ID?
Yeah, I got ID.
You do,
Hmm.
but most Black folk don't.
How can they not? You gotta have ID.
It's
There's nothing. There's nowhere you can go and not have your ID. You gotta have ID. I don't
I
buy
am
that we
telling
don't
you,
have ID.
the voter ID bills.
Hmm.
That's why they create them, because
But
Black folk don't have the proper ID. You need a state issued ID. Okay, it's the exact same thing that was occurring with what is it called, TSA. Okay, if you don't have a proper ID, you can't go through TSA. You got to go through an entirely different process. That's why they put these barriers up against Black folk,
But I don't
because they
see how
know
man
that
having a
you
a
don't.
car, an ID,
Huh?
because we all have ID, Doc.
No,
There's
we
no
do
such
not.
thing as Black people who don't have ID. We all got
See,
ID.
no, we do not. See. Yeah, it's showing through now. You middle class, ain't you, Negro? You done lost. You done lost your. You ain't got your finger on the pulse of the Black community. You don't live near Black people, do you? You know what I mean? Black people ain't got no ID.
I don't know no Black
Not a
person don't
valid
tell us they don't
ID,
have ID. They
huh?
got ID.
No, not a
They,
valid one.
they got ID.
Not a valid one. And then the thing is, like the last voting session,
Mm-hmm.
3 days. 3 days now, 72 hours before you could vote. And I'm talking about early voting. 3 days before I received it, I got it right over in the file cabinet. I received my voting card.
Mm-hmm.
And the voting card notified me that where I usually vote
Mm-hmm.
was no longer my voting place.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go to a different place.
Mm-hmm.
Same city, but a different place. Now, if you go to the wrong place, you can't vote. And that's with an ID. What type of ID do you need to cast a vote in America?
Mm-hmm.
And think about we were talking about the percentage of black folk. Think about it from this standpoint. How many brothers didn't answer that door or didn't respond to census because they got some other stuff going? They got some other stuff going. I want the people to know where I'm at.
Right. I would say that is a big number. At least half of us didn't respond.
Okay. So what percentage of those people would be willing to go down to the DMV, to go wherever you got to go in your state to get a proper updated ID? What percentage of that population was, I ain't going down there. I'm gonna have warrants.
I just don't buy it there because you got to go to work, you got to get a check, you got to go to the bank.
Yeah, you over there.
They're gonna ask for that ID.
Yeah, and your check is automatically deposited into a bank account, into a savings account or something, right?
But even to start that, you need.
But what I'm saying is, there's a huge percentage of Americans, especially black and brown folk, who don't have a bank account. That's why we have those check in the cash places. See, brother, they didn't got you. You done went on and got an education, and you done lost connection with the people. You think that the people, man, these people ain't got no ID. Turn on YouTube and watch some of them cop shows where they pulling people over. Do you have your driver's license, registration ID? No, I ain't got none of that.
I don't know. I just have a hard time believing we ain't got no damn ID because you need an ID.
That's the circle.
You need an ID.
That's your echo chamber. Look, well, just what Max said. I am telling you, there are people who don't have. If they were to die today, okay, and you took their fingerprints, you'd be lucky if you discovered their identity because they were involved in a criminal justice system at some point. Be lucky. If you ain't got that, well, look here, baby. We're going to Ancestry DNA. We're going to see if anybody in here has got the same DNA genetic code that you got. That I am telling you, that is a way to keep people from voting. And the shameful part for the left, and I've said this for now 20 years, they tell you what they're going to do. They tell you that if you don't have a state issued ID, you can't vote. It's another hurdle that you got to go through. And it works because the more things that you put up, the fewer people who are going to show up and vote. Because they don't want to go through the hassle. We want to go down there to the DMV, man. I got to stand in line all day. I got to go to work. Okay? You can't go down there on Saturday. But now I got to hear Keisha bitching about we had to spend our day down there. And if I had took care of my business, I would have. Ain't nobody trying to hear all that. So I'm just not going to vote. And that's just talking about having the ability to cast the vote. That's not even addressing the idea of being, and once again, going back to the black media, the idea of knowing who to vote for. Because we've clearly seen what happens when you just blindly throw your support behind a Negro and his loyalty is to white folk. And we've seen what happens when you elect Negroes who get up in there and do nothing. Like they're reviving the Know Nothing Party.
Definitely, I agree with that part. Your president starting to call them Democrats.
There you go.
Democrats. I said, Lord have mercy. You know, but I think that, you know, when I sit back and I look at the landscape of what's going on and with the voting and getting the people out there to vote, it's different. I think America is different from like Britain, right? Over in Britain, they don't have the free speech no more, right? They can't say the Holocaust didn't happen. They can't say, I don't believe it didn't happen. They can't say to a person, oh, you black, so you're stupid. These are all criminal offenses now. Um, the thing with America, they have that, I think all that live in America, that's actually born here, have that revolutionary period where they wouldn't mind going ahead and fighting for what they want. That they're not going to just sit back and say, "Nah, this ain't gonna work. It's not going down like that."
Now, how many Negroes ain't got no driver's license? Let's go down the list.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know some that don't have driver's license.
Okay. Do you know more that ain't got a passport? Because if you ain't got no driver's license, Lord knows you probably ain't got no passport.
Yeah, I know a lot that don't have a passport as well.
State ID.
But they have that state ID though. They had that state ID.
So we're running at from the people that the bougie Negroes that okay. 33%, 1 out of 3.
And now, mind you, all the people I know do have a driver's license, but I'm thinking of the people that come to the pharmacy and pick up their meds, and when they pick up those controls, they got to have an ID. And
but those are people who are involved with the system right now. We're talking about people who ain't coming to the pharmacy. People who rubbing, this is a pharmacy joke for you, who regardless of what happens to them, they rub a little of that tussin on it. Okay, go lay down and you rub that tussin on it, and you feel better when you get up in the morning. That's who we talking about. The majority of there's a population, I won't say they're the majority, but there's a population of poor people who don't have a valid ID. They ain't got no driver's license. They damn sure ain't got no passport. And if they lose that state ID, how do they get another one? You go down there and say, hey, my name is Joe Smith, and I need an ID. Well, sir, we're going to need you to bring a utility bill or something to prove who you are. Well, I ain't got no apartment. I'm living with somebody, and ain't none of the bills in my name. Well, Joe, hey, you be careful out there. And like Mac said, see, me and Mac know some people. See, Mac's an I know a guy type of guy. Okay. Whereas if you have something that you need done, come on at your boy. I know a guy. I won't say his name, but he's the perfect occupation to be the I know a guy. He was a barber. So when people come and they sit in his chair, so what is it that you do? He knows tens of thousands of people. Okay, if you hit a rough patch and you need your water turned back on, he knows a guy. Okay, if you need your car to disappear, it'll cost you a couple $100, but we know how to make your car disappear. There's an entire subculture of people who are, it's the wrong terminology to utilize, but it means the same thing. They're living off the grid. somebody that ain't had a W-2 in 20 years, someone who ain't had an apartment. And there's some people you could type their name onto the internet and ask ChatGPT to tell you about them, and they're gonna say this person doesn't exist. I have no information at all. And they're not living out in the woods of Montana.
Right.
They're living right in the 5th Ward of Houston, in the 3rd Ward of Houston. You go down there and go down there and ask for Terrence Starks. Be like, Terrence Starks? No. You know who he asking about? He asking about T-Baby. Oh, well, why didn't you say T-Baby? Because those people know him as T-Baby. There are people in my hometown. Matter of fact, she was 2 houses up, Miss Yolanda Allen. Okay, we went to the same church. I grew up with her kids. This, and that. She didn't know my name till I was damn near 30.
Wow.
Because everybody there, one of my very good friends, John Calhoun. Okay, Calhoun goes to my hometown. He had a friend. We got a mutual friend, Keith Franklin, and he asked Keith about me. He was like, "Yeah, man, James Jones, Dr. James Jones." He was like, "James Jones? We don't know no damn James Jones. What? No." Got to the point where he called me. He said, "Man, I thought you said you knew Keith them." I said, "I do." He said, "I'm gonna put you on speakerphone." Puts me on speakerphone. From the moment that they hear my voice, that ain't no damn James Jones. That's Charlie. If you go to my hometown and you ask them for James Jones, you would never find me. It's just what it is. Because there's a subculture, okay, and you can sit there, you can laugh about it, what have you, but there are people who, if you don't know who they are, you'll never find them, never. And I mean absolutely never.
Wow.
There are a lot of people out here, man. I'm talking about millions who have no ID. There's no traceable way for you to find them. You're dealing with people who are still involved in the system, and these aren't conspiracy theorists. I don't do. No, they just have never had or never taken the opportunity to go ahead and become legitimate and established as dominant society says people are.
Wow.
But now, if you need a V8 Hemi engine, then get it for you. Come walking up your driveway with a V8 on his shoulder. Hey, bro, I heard you looking for one of these.
Yeah, I want to see. I want our audience, Mac 285, Brother Willie, and Not in My Name. Anybody that's out there, what percentage of Black America do you think do not have an ID? This is becoming very, very interesting. Just drop in the chat, what percentage of Black America do you think don't have an ID?
A valid ID.
Yeah,
a valid issued ID.
A valid ID. Not the Hood Network, Matt, but a valid ID. Let us know what number y'all come up with. I would like to see this. It's very, 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 very interesting. Now, when they look at this Mexican issue, from my research,
and see, I like the way you term that, because that's what we're talking about. All of this smoke and mirrors about the 14th Amendment. No, talk about what you're talking about. You want the Mexicans up out of here. You want the brown people up out of here because they fertile in the idea of one person, one vote. They gonna run you over because they're not they have children, and I say this about the Caribbean and in Central and South America. They're about 50 years behind us
Mm.
in pretty much everything. If you watch Major League Baseball, you'll see what you think are black baseball players, but they're actually Latin. And these brothers got chains and gold and stuff on, like they back in the 70s.
Mm.
Black folk used to have a whole bunch of children because of plantations and sharecropping. We're not having that many children anymore. These new people who have come here, they having 12, 13 kids.
Mm.
See, Mac loved black people. He just put his at 60%.
Yeah, I was surprised to see 60%. That's a very high number.
Yeah. I mean, you're a citizen.
Mm.
See, that's what that is. You're a citizen. You don't hobnob with people like me and Mac. You just don't. You're above board. It's kind of like how we were talking about that Michael movie. And I told you, I was like, oh man, I got that right here at the house. And you're like, what? I'm like, yeah, man, I got that right here at the house, man. And you're a citizen, man. You're not going to step out of the boundaries and that's ironic, because but in a way it isn't, because if you really honestly think about what are some of the basic lessons of the Nation of Islam, that you will honor the laws of the land that you live in.
Mm-hmm.
So y'all are civilized citizens. We're unchurched, uncivilized. We just trying to make it happen, baby. If we gonna have what we got to do. We got to do. Okay? And if we can't get it done by fair means, we'll use foul means. It ain't above us to have to come. Look here, we come up in your house and get what we need, baby. We ain't trying to hurt nobody, but hey, baby got to eat today. 60%.
Wow. Very interesting. Very interesting. So media as a political weapon.
Mm-hmm.
One thing about the Johnsons and how they roll, it wasn't just commercial success. It was a political fact that when you control a platform that reaches tens of millions of Black people every month, Ebony, and every week by Jet, you hold a form of power that white corporations and federal government have to respect and negotiate with. That raw power of that media ecosystem, do you think that we'll be able to ever get that back again?
I mean, you have it already. It's not something that has gone away. It's still there. It's just what you are utilizing it for. So instead of rallying the race around the lynching and the murder of an Emmett Lewis Till and informing people about the migratory patterns of Black folk, we're talking about Cheyenne Bryant. We're talking about 50 Cent battling with T.I.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're talking about. So in many ways, today's media, Black media, is not always aimed at informing and educating. It's more aimed at titillating and sensationalizing. The problem is, and this is one of the stories that I have about the Amsterdam News. My best friend, he's from Brooklyn, and I remember going into the Black Studies Library. As soon as I turn the corner to go into Black Studies Library, I can hear snoring. And I'm talking about, how people need that CPAP machine type of snoring?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I heard. I walk in there, I'm like, man, who in the world is in here snoring? Black Studies Library got about 20 people in it. I look over in the corner, is my man, head back, snoring with a copy of the Amsterdam News over his head. I went over there and woke him up. Hey, bro. People was like, man, thank you. Thank you. I was like, I said, hey, man, you sleep. He gets up and tells everybody he pay his tuition too. And that if he want to throw a barbecue in the Black Studies Library, he should be able to. I'm like, man, just get your stuff, man. Let's go. Let's not make it worse. But he was reading the Amsterdam News. And I reminded him of this. This is probably about 6 months ago. We're laughing, talking about our days in college. And I said, man, is the Amsterdam News still around? He said, nah, I don't think so. This, and that. But he goes on the internet and he checks. They're still around. The Amsterdam News has probably been around for 70, 80, 90 years. How many Black folk have ever heard of the Amsterdam News? Versus how many of them have heard about the Shade Room? Okay, Club Shay Shay. Right. Those types of things. So you still have the ability, and I would argue you got even a greater ability, because Black folk are able to get on one accord as far as addressing a topic instantaneously. Within 5 minutes of Will Smith slapping Chris Rock, all of Black America was talking about it. So you have the ability. It's just, what are you talking about? Does the attack on the Voting Rights Act get their juices working? No. Does gerrymandering get their juices working? No. And it's unfortunate that the substantive things that we should be talking about and we should be addressing and dealing with are totally ignored because we got other things that are going to excite us. Like, how many people got a sexually transmitted disease over spring break in Houston? Better question. Why would you come to Houston for a spring break? Ain't no water there. Better question. Such. We're silly-minded, undisciplined, only entertained. And that does us in.
Wow. So when we're thinking about, because before Ebony and Jet, am I correct that there was no Black publication like that prior to them, right?
No. We've had Black newspapers for over 100 years. I mean, you go back and you look at the Chicago Defender. The Chicago Defender was that paper, okay? That in many ways, if you want to know what was going on within Black America, you read the Chicago Defender. The Chicago Defender. I'm working on a book now dealing with Longview, Texas, and the most famous person that people would know from Longview, Texas, is actually Forrest Whitaker. Okay, but they had a race riot in Longview, Texas, and the spark that led to the race riot was a Chicago Defender article that had been written about a white woman, married white woman, who wound up falling in love with a Black man. And this white woman came out and said that if they wasn't in the Jim Crow South, she would leave her husband and marry this Black man. He didn't put the mojo on her, apparently. Okay. Her brothers found him in her bedroom and ended up beating him. They take him to jail and take him out their jail cell, and they killed him. Okay, a white mob came and got him, and they lynched that brother. Now, in saying that, a Chicago Defender article is written talking about that incident. The brother's name was Samuel L. Jones. Okay, I had to recheck what I had written. I wrote a article about it. I had to recheck what I wrote because I found myself writing Samuel L. Jackson. His name was Samuel L. Jones, and he was a contributor to the Chicago Defender. So the Chicago Defender, the Amsterdam News, you have all of these Black newspapers floating around. Here in Houston, Texas, I would argue, I'm not gonna say is the the widest circulation, but I believe that it is African American News and Issues. Church, it's a paper that is handed out at grocery stores and churches.
Mm.
So you've always had a black media presence. You've always had black media presence on film. Oscar Micheaux.
So what made Ebony and Jet then go to the top as if they were the only things left? The only
They're number one, they're nationally syndicated. Number two, they're not a newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're talking about one periodical. Ebony appeared once a month,
Mm-hmm.
and Jet was once a week.
Once a week.
And the one of the major things about both of those periodicals is their distribution. Whereas most black periodicals are only going to be dealing with a certain city,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a state. Now, these dealt with all of Black America. And in many ways, it's genius when you think about it, because Black folk who are reading these periodicals, like I said, with Emmett Lewis Till was living in Chicago, but his roots lie in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So by talking about the entirety of the race, you're going to ironically touch upon things that apply to people from coast to coast.
Mm. I'm surprised to see that the Chicago Defender they have an online site. I thought they were done with it, but they have an online site.
Yeah, the Chicago Defender, it was and is large, and there's something to be said for a people. And this is what I always say about Minister Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. The only reason, I mean, come on, from the 1960s all the way up to today, who's the only Black leader that has remained relevant throughout the entire period? It's Minister Farrakhan. Why? Because he has the final call. He's able to communicate with his people without having to go through white media channels. Has his own infrastructure. When you look at it, and this is a criticism that you had. I've heard it most recently about Cornel West,
Mm-hmm.
where people, Cornel took Obama to task for some of his views and things like that. Well, when Biden and especially Trump came, Black America said, yo, where Cornel West at now? How come Cornel West ain't speaking out? It isn't that Cornel West wasn't speaking out, because he was. He was still writing, as he always does, about important things. But CNN and MSNBC did not give him a spot to get on there and talk. So it creates a very interesting dilemma. It's kind of, if a tree falls in the woods and there's no one there to hear it, does it make a sound? If a Black leader speaks, but he's not on white national media, is he saying anything? And the answer to that becomes no. It's the reason why the internet is so important, because Joy Reid, who was released from MSNBC, who's the brother, the light-skinned brother, Don
Lemon.
They have their own online media presences now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Very, very, very interesting. Very interesting to see. So when we look at these magazines, and you had Life magazine that talked about white folks.
Yeah.
How did he make his subscribers valuable to the advertisers, that now they say, okay, yeah, we're gonna spend some money with you?
Numbers. I have 10 million readers. And if you want your ad to reach 10 million Black folk, then go ahead and do it. You got to buy an ad with us. It's numbers. So often within capitalist America, I think that we miss the bottom line harsh reality of profit. People are producing what they're producing to make a profit off of it. It's kind of like when COVID occurred and people were like, "Oh, are we going to find a cure to this? This new plague and this." My question was always, is there some money to be made from it?
Mm,
And if there's money to be made from it, you live in America. You ain't got nothing to worry about.
mhm,
Somebody gonna come up with a solution because they want that money. This
mhm,
is a capitalist nation. This is an unfettered capitalist nation when you begin to talk about the insatiable desire of its citizens for material goods. So it's about money. I mean, it's the exact same thing that you're going to see when you consider any popular website. If they have numbers,
mm,
if they have numbers, YouTube will cut you a check.
mhm,
Okay, give you a part of the advertising dollars that your stuff brought in. It's just what it is. It is it's the way the way the world works. To be honest with you, so he was able to achieve what he did because he had numbers. He found a niche, and he was able to execute a plan to satisfy that niche.
mm. And the thing that it's like if they didn't have the magazines prior
Mhm.
and these advertisers, these business owners weren't trying to look for or to find more black media with these magazines to throw their advertising dollars to,
Mhm.
then was it flip of the switch that says, oh, there's money now, let's go, we can actually target black dollars.
Well, there's a growth, I would argue, that happens in America from the I would actually start it with the 1950s, possibly 1960s, where white folk finally get an understanding that there's a bunch of black dollars to be had. I'll give you a perfect example. My mother was the first race woman that I ever knew. And remember the Cabbage Patch doll craze that's actually
Mhm.
coming back. My mother was able to, and nobody could find Cabbage Patch dolls and what have you. My mother had herself and all of her white coworkers and any black coworkers, wherever you go, be on the lookout for black Cabbage Patch dolls. So every one of my cousins, when it was Christmas, every one of them got a black Cabbage Patch doll.
Mm,
Okay. The idea of racial representation. When you live in a world that is your personal racial echo chamber, meaning white folk, it doesn't dawn upon them the idea of diversity. And it's the reason why they have a problem with diversity to this very day, because the standard is white. But when you have someone, and I'll use Magic Johnson to prove this, Magic Johnson's movie theaters, okay, he talks about trying to get whoever was the head of that movie theater chain to consider working with him to create a black version, give black chains of movies. And he took him to see, I want to say, Waiting to Exhale.
mhm,
And this white guy, who's the head of a major movie conglomerate, he says the first time that he's ever been to a movie with black folk in it. And
oh
he was
wow.
undone by the reaction of the audience to that movie. And can you imagine a white guy going to see Waiting to Exhale in the arenas full of 800 black women screaming and hollering and interacting with the screen in the
Mm,
way that they do?
mm,
But the
mm, mm.
capitalist side of him immediately led him to recognize, hey, this is a gold mine that
Right.
hasn't been tapped. You see it more today, present day,
Mm-hmm.
the expansion of advertising and what have you, because now these advertising companies are hiring and utilizing Black folk in their advertising campaigns. I was sitting up, and this is years ago. I love hip hop, and a commercial comes on, and they utilize Black Sheep dress, Black Sheep, because you can get with this or you can get with that. I think you get
Right.
with this because this is kind of whack. They put that in an advertising campaign. Now you tell me, number
Mm-hmm.
one, that's a generational thing. It might have been a white boy who was exposed to Black culture, but more than likely it was a Black person who was able to say, no, 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 this is what we ought to do, and built a campaign around it. So I think that wherever the dollars are, you will see people flocking to meet that need. Take a look at who's the brother who does the Black horror films. I want to say he was part of Keenan and Cal. He did Us. You know, those Black horror movies. You know,
Okay.
Black folk have by and large, generally speaking, not been in the horror movies. We ain't in the ghost and shit and
Right.
spirits. We don't.
Mm-hmm.
But when he produced that and it turned a profit, what do you see coming after it? A whole
Mm-hmm.
series of Black horror
Exactly.
movies. So I know that race is a part of it, but and you know me, I'm not a conspiracist. I believe it's driven by money. And just as, and we can deal with Lorenz Tate. Lorenz Tate appears in Love Jones,
Mm-hmm.
plays the character Darius, you know, the Black poet, falls in love with, you know, with Nia Long's character. And yet almost at the same time, he's in Menace to Society, where he plays Old Dog, a
Right.
sociopath who just, as he put it, I just don't give a fuck. Okay. Which one made more money? Which
Mm-hmm.
one is considered a classic? It's Menace. And of course, that followed on the heels of John Singleton's Boys in the Hood.
Right.
If it turns a profit, investors are going to say, "Oh, okay, okay. No, 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 no. We don't need one of these Love Jones stories.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what we need is one of these hood films." And we've seen that formula used over and over. And I don't care if you know go back to the 1980s when people like Ice-T would say, yeah, the record companies would tell you, no, 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 no. What we need is we need a gangster rapper. We don't have one of those in our catalog. So it's the money. They're pursuing the money. These are corporations. They got investors they got to pay, or they're going to lose their job.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So we have that John Johnson passed away in 2005. He built Johnson Publishing as a tight family controlled private company. His daughter Linda Johnson took the reins right as the print industry hit a digital brick wall. So
Mhm.
the documentary that we didn't show talked about what three generations of systemic racism could not accomplish: a failed secession plan and a decade of institutional drift completed. Doc, this cuts deep into our ability to build for the future. Why is a succession plan the absolute ultimate test of any Black institution? And where did the leadership dynamic falter in pivoting to the digital age?
Let's be honest. John Johnson lived in a world where the internet didn't exist. So what chance does he have to set up the future generations to be able to deal with this digital age that's coming? None. Okay. So even if that's what he wanted, none. But let's also be very fair to Black businesses and Black
Mhm.
business owners. What do you go into business for? Money.
Mhm.
Let's be honest. It's money. You go into it to make money. That is, unless you're one of the outliers. Now, in saying that you go into this to make money, Black folk, because we're so proud to have something that is Black owned, there's a part of us that in our minds and in our hearts, we claim ownership of it. That's a Black magazine. That's our, we as if we're a part of it, as if it's not a business anymore. Okay. And with that comes certain expectations that you'll always represent us. You'll cover the Black stories. You'll do X, Y, and Z. Whereas other people could very well be saying, well, look here, I just got offered $350 million for it. Do you take that money? Should you take that money? Better question is, why shouldn't you? And many Black folk would say the reason that you shouldn't is because, come on, this is something for our people. This is our thing. You don't know if that's her vision or her dream or whatever to run that magazine. And also with the rapid nature of media changing, going from print to digital, how do we navigate that? Because there is no blueprint for that. And the very people who would be able to probably help you navigate that have been snatched up by the big boys already. Because it comes down to money again. Whereas Johnson & Johnson Publishing might offer you $40,000 to come in and run their digital wing. Time is going to offer you $2.4 million and a stake in the company.
But shouldn't have been something, he may not have been prepared, but she should have definitely been prepared.
There's so many variables involved in that. Was she a tech person? Did she understand? Did she even really, was that her passion project? There's so many different things as to why maybe it didn't happen. And then you throw in there something else that we can't, because we don't know, we can't really discuss. But I would guarantee you it's a part of it, is the racism that comes from the digital world. You know, Black folk are, if it's predicated upon, like just like what just happened with the Chicago Defender. You're one of the most astute brothers that I know in regards to things that are impacting and affecting our people. And you said, I didn't know the Chicago Defender had a digital presence. With Black folk getting on the information superhighway pretty much last, at what cost does that come to you? And if you see that the money is dwindling, and you could very well lose this, do you cut your losses and run and sell it? There's a lot that goes into it. I mean, Bob, look at Bob Johnson, the BET guy. Did he have a duty to the race to continue owning BET, or was that his creation and he should be able to cash out whenever he wants to?
That was, and you know, we will have to have a part 2 because BET, we was going to get into that one as well, because some of the decisions that was made, and you know, when he got it on the stock exchange, and I think it was Viacom that took over, you know, they was taking it strictly for profit and didn't give a shit about anything else. So he had to go and buy it back to try to steer it back into where he felt that the direction that BET should go to. So we're going to have to do a part 2 to actually jump into that. But I would think, and I don't know whether Linda was his only child or whether he didn't have a son or not, but I think if she knows that, you know, I'm going to be running Daddy's company once he passed, this is part of your reality that you have to be able to, you know, drive through. You have to be able to navigate your way. Or was it a mistake because he didn't have a good succession plan to find somebody more qualified than his daughter to run the company and make it successful. Do Black people have a problem with having succession plans when it comes to Black institutions?
Black folk have a problem with succession plans just like white folk do. It becomes your only point of relevance. It's the only thing that matters in your life. It's the only thing that society cares about with you. Is your association with this. We see this a lot with the professorate.
Mm-hmm.
Professors stay until they're 80, 85, 90 years old because all of their contacts are generated by that job. All of their research interests are generated through that job. Okay. So in saying that, you have to really think that for a Black man who has built this and is trying to keep it going, there has to come a moment, and hopefully that moment is not at the end
Mm-hmm.
when you're in decline, that you're willing to say, this is my life's work. I want it to continue going forward. And this is how I see it going forward. This is what needs to occur. This is the secret sauce that we use to make it. That's hard for a lot of people to do. I mean, and you go through a litany of Black leaders and what have you. And so many of them have, for a lot of reasons, I believe, not created an appropriate succession plan. And as a result of that, their businesses are going to ultimately suffer. And then you're kind of hamstrung as well when you begin to talk about something as a family business, because that closes off the circle of who can be utilized to keep it afloat.
Interesting. And Doc, how detrimental is it when you have an institution and the founder's personal charisma, relationships is the thing that upholds that institution, and then when that founder is gone, then the institution is gone. A lot, and I'll give an example. A lot of people say today, well, what happens when Minister Farrakhan leaves?
Mhm.
The nation is no longer going to be relevant. There's no other person that commands attention like Farrakhan.
If the nation ain't got nothing else, the nation got some charismatic brothers. Okay, so to speak. And, my best friend asked that question. He said, "Man, what, do they go to a school or something so they can all sound like that?" But I don't think that would be the problem within the Nation of Islam at all.
Mm-hmm.
That's
But
one of their strengths.
But in this situation with the magazines, do you
Mhm.
think that was one of the issues?
Certainly, because you're also talking about what for our people was a new frontier. So when you're talking about creating something that's in many ways a new frontier and it's a family business, it creates a insular culture.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that insular culture strong enough, or is it desiring to prevent an outsider from coming in and having any say? Because if it is, well, then what you got inside the family is all that you have. Okay. But if it isn't, where are you going to get that talent at? And part of the problem that we never really talk about when we talk about the idea of integration and what have you. But Black folk, keep in mind that the Brown decision is 1954 and 1955. School integration, if we're going to be fair, 1960s. So by 1970, late 1960s, early 1970s, you have Black folk who are matriculating from PWIs.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we know happens with PWIs, and it's the way American business, not just white business, but American business works. many professors, many university leaders, many university presidents sit on these boards. And a part of the reason that they sit on these boards is that they're able to funnel talent to you. Okay.
Mm.
When you think about the stock market, and they created this thing that nobody can explain to you. If you want to be have your brain frazzled and realize that hell, you don't even know what you're talking about. Talk to somebody, a financial advisor, financial planner, about derivatives, what they are, and how do you determine derivatives? And they'll say, oh, well, it's a mathematical formula. Well, give me one of them. Well, I really can't give you one because they can't. Okay. Now, in saying that, where do these people who came up with these ideas of derivatives, where did they come from? They came out of highbrow leading white institutions. So now you have a Bear Stearns, you have some of these great financial houses who will put and I'm not going to say their names, but I worked for a university president who actually sat on one of these boards. And her job, part of her job was to, if they came across 2-3 bright ones, okay, listen, I can hook you up with a job that's paying you $300,000 today. Are you interested? $300,000, certainly. Put me down. So now you have the top of the top, the elite, being siphoned off. What's remaining for Bob Johnson? What's remaining for Ebony, for Jet, for Emerge? Not the tip top. And then you're also having to really deal with, as we talk about this in this space, you're having to deal with marketing and selling your product. And we're talking about media to a community that is not the most literate community in the world. How hard it is to sell a book to Black folk. It is easier to sell, unfortunately, crack cocaine than it is to sell a book. And when you look at it from that standpoint, and the brother Claude Anderson would talk about this. He said, what we don't have as a community when you're talking about business is a captive consumer base. People who are going to buy your product solely because you produced it. We don't have that type of racial solidarity by and large. We just don't. If somebody else is selling it, Walmart is selling it for 27 cents cheaper, that's where we're going. We have no real-time understanding of purchasing it here, and it will help money circulate within the Black community. Now, how do you get there? Ironically, you get there through magazines. You get there through media. That's how you mold and you shape the thinking patterns of the people. But we're not there. We're not there. And how do we get there? I don't know. Because more people can tell you, okay, who Drewski is versus Ralph Ellison. That's a problem. If more of our community knows who Chris Brown is over Clifford Brown, that's a problem. How do we reorient them towards that? Like Chuck D, Public Enemy, said, turn the radio off. That might be the only way. Because they're being fed, they're being inundated right now. And they're being fed and inundated from the moment that their brains can receive messages. There's no other explanation for it. And I know you saw this viral thing. It's probably 4 or 5 years old now, of the little girls at the home daycare. Hands on your knees, hands on your knees. They twerking as babies.
Exactly. That's
So
right.
they're getting you early. And when
Mhm.
I say they, I'm not even talking about white folk. I'm talking about the consumer machine. You're being turned into a consumer from the moment that you can comprehend and understand.
Mm, mm, mm. Wow. Doc, do you think that legacy Black organizations, they have a problem with anticipating technology disruptions or technology advancements to
No,
try
no
to
more,
get in line with the stream? Or
no more than anybody else does. Everybody else has to, when these alterations occur, you have to adapt or die. What we don't have is, number one, we don't have people on those boards, in legislatures, in judge chairs, that are going to basically do the equivalent of insider trading and say,
Mhm.
yo, this is what's coming. We don't have that. But there's a danger that is associated with how you presented that question. And this is the danger, that you're laying the total responsibility for the failure or the inadequacy at Black folks' foot. Whereas if you need a $500 million infusion of cash
Mhm.
to be able to alter your entire system to meet what is coming right now, they have the ability to go and get that money from a financial institution. We don't. I mean, take a look at the building of the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. The US government built that. And then look at all the begging and hat in handing we had to do to build the African American History Museum. So it's not that we're stupider, that we can't adapt or anything like that. It's the harsh, undeniable fact that everything is going to be, at best, a little more difficult when you're a Black organization, because you have so much that is going on. You're battling a culture. We talk about this idea of code switching.
Right.
Black folk ain't really code switching. Okay, you're uncomfortable in certain spaces. You're not code switching. Code switching is you're able to go over here and you're able to deal with this and that. I was looking at this is the time period of the god awful graduation celebrations,
Hmm.
the dancing, the partying at what should be a a reverence moment, a moment where our ancestors can look and say, yo, okay, we own it. Now, if you want to boogie woogie, you want to throw up the Delta stuff, the AKA stuff, at the after party, do that. But where's your dignity? Where's your reverence for this moment? And so when you're seeing that, even during those moments, those public moments, that you're not able to restrain that black Holy Spirit that's inside of you, that's telling you, no, let show them, girl, show them, show them, show them. Okay, that's a problem, because there are going to be some rooms, some situations that that is going to set you and your corporation and your company back. Okay, and
Hmm.
we see brothers and sisters who are black as can be, but when it's lights, camera, action, they are as professional as one could ever hope to be. And to see who's the brother that gives all the financial advice that used to work. I know this Negro worked for the government at some point in his development, but he's a fantastic financial guy.
Hmm.
Fantastic.
Hmm. When we look at Morehouse,
Mhm.
that's the black college in Atlanta for men, right?
All male college, despite despite what one sister trying to front. Don't tell me that she had a bunch of scholarships and everything, and she chose that she would just go to work. She said Morehouse gave me a full ride. I was like,
What?
what? I just let it go by. I was like, oh, okay, sis, all right.
So the question, because from what I understand, I've never visited, but from what I hear, and I don't know the truth of it, but it has turned into a homosexual den.
What now?
A homosexual den. And that's definitely not what the founders set the college up for. Or, well, I don't even know, because I don't know who the founders are. But the black people who, I guess the original teachers, or because I don't know whether they were founded by a white person behind the scenes and black people had faces. I don't know. But I don't think that the gay agenda was something that they foresaw taking a hold in that school system.
Of course not. Our people could, just like every other people, they could not have necessarily ever imagined that you would have this extreme successful push of the LGBTQ for expansion of their rights and recognition. Morehouse is in many ways the same way. The problem that you have with Morehouse, though, is that Morehouse is not a public institution; it's a private institution. Okay, and what you're talking about, and I've been to Morehouse several times. I was actually offered a job at Morehouse, and that fell apart. We couldn't see eye to eye on the financial end. We just couldn't. Okay. I'll tell you how much Morehouse offered me. You would be undone. What they offer you would be undone. You wouldn't believe it. Okay. How little bit of money they offered me to come down there and serve as a full-time professor. But that became a major issue. And when you think about it, it's in many ways it's predictable with the upsurge of LGBTQ and Black folk having to, in many ways, be very assertive in regards to their rights. And so you have almost the perfect formula. You got an all male Black school. Who do you think is going to end up gravitating there? Even with having Spelman across the way. Okay, Clark Atlanta being there, Morris Brown was there at one time. So that was a major problem. That turned into and then you had the internal fighting that was occurring within Morehouse. Whereas you had the football team, you had straight Black male students literally jumping on some of the LGBTQ, some of the gay brothers, okay, because their impact upon the image of Morehouse was so phenomenal, even though they were a decidedly minority population. But you got to the point where you had Black men coming to class in skirts and high heels, okay? Being a private institution, what Morehouse was able to do, the leadership of Morehouse, they banned female clothing on their students. So you have that thing going on. Now, did the founding fathers of Morehouse ever intend that? No. Nobody could have ever imagined that we would be where we are in the new millennium in regards to those types of issues and identity politics going on and what have you. But that's where they are. That's where they were. And it turns into and it's always the same question that you have to deal with. And we're dealing with it with the Crown Act as well, that Do you conform? Is there a standard of professionalism that you have to exhibit to be involved in what I would term to be mainstream society?
Mm.
How you present yourself, how you speak, how you talk, how you X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Do you have to conform to that, or do you not? I had a back and forth with a student about the Crown Act, and this this student, she was, I don't know where she was from, but she would wear her braids how they would do in New Orleans, so that it's hanging down over their face. You can't see their face. They're literally talking to you through braids. You never get this chance to see their face. It's remember when Prince wore that gold thing across his face? That's what it's looking like. But it's there. And she says, "Well, I can go and I can get a job anywhere, with my hair like this and blah blah blah. Haven't you ever heard of the Crown Act?" And I said, "Listen, all the Crown Act is going to do is give them a roadmap of what not to say, why they didn't hire you. Are you crazy enough to believe that they're going to put you as the face of their business?" And see, you have to be some parts of insane or so naive and inexperienced about how life works to believe something like that.
Right.
So we as a people, we are not unified, and we have a level of inexperience that leads these people to believe that they can do any and everything that it is that they want to do. And quite simply, the world does not work like that.
Exactly. Exactly. Since Morehouse is a private institution,
Mhm.
they're not. That means that they're not taking no government money, so they can say you're not welcome here. Am I correct?
I don't know if they can say it that way,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think that I know that they would. I don't think that they would ever articulate it like that. Um, yeah, they wouldn't say it like that. That wouldn't be there would be some backlash for that, because one would have to remember that Morehouse has a lot of powerful alumni who have some significant interest in not offending the LGBTQ population. Like if they were to come out and say something like that, you would have, I'll just start at the top. You would have Oprah Winfrey come out, and she would say something to denounce that, because
Really?
she can't stand for her brand and her image to be dampened by such hate rhetoric and hate speech, because she got some other business associations, regardless of what her individual politics are. She got some other business associations that such as association with such language would cause some damage to her, or at least some difficulty. Think about it this way. What if Minister Farrakhan came out and was wholly supportive of gay rights, and that they should be able to do whatever they want to do, wear heels, wear skirts? And what would be the fallout?
I think you would have a lot of people who would walk away from the nation if
And
that
that's
was
that's
the case.
and that's my point exactly. That there comes a moment of influence, a level of influence, so to speak, that you have to be very, very wise and strategic in regards to what it is you're saying. So instead of saying, because you've never heard Morehouse come out with a public statement saying, well, really what we're doing is honoring Dr. King's judging people by the content of their character. There's nothing wrong with homosexuality.
Mm,
You haven't heard that come out of Morehouse.
mm,
What you hear Morehouse saying is, well, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King went to school here, and that's as far as they're going to go in regards to that. So you gotta be at that level, and in those
Mm.
moments, it's best to say nothing that you can be pinned down to.
Wow.
And you have to remember, come on, that they're receiving money from multiple sources. Okay, give you a perfect example: Spelman College,
Mm-hmm.
which is the female version. I know that Bennett College is going to say, they'll have an issue with this, another black female college, but most people point to Spelman College as being the epitome of growing, intelligent, educated black women. My cousin Rashida Rawls, who actually, I was going to tell you this, for the last 2 years, Rashida has been given the privilege of reading the prayer at Savior's Day.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. She
Mm.
actually just got married to a brother named Hannibal Muhammad, who
Okay.
is a is
Okay.
a, is a TSU grad. They got
Okay.
they got married maybe a month and a half ago.
Uh-huh.
She actually contacted me and said that when they come to Houston, because he must have some connection with Houston because he went to TSU,
Mm.
that they want to link up. But Spelman College, I mean, who's Spelman?
Mm-hmm.
It's John D. Rockefeller's daughter. So at the very moment that you have the epitome of black female education, it is linked
Right.
up with one of the greatest white philanthropists known to mankind, John D. Rockefeller. That's his daughter's name.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's a whole lot more nuanced and sophisticated than just quite simply saying, well, we don't want that LGBTQ up in it. I can guarantee you that there are people within every institution that it turns their stomach, especially when you're talking about black folk,
Mm-hmm.
because regardless of what you say about where we come from and why we feel the way that we feel, we first and foremost came from the black church. And that's one of the primary foundational tenets of what we were taught within the church, Sunday sermons. There are people within these institutions, it turns their stomach, but they're wise enough and cautious enough to not say anything about it. And you'll never be able to pin them down in regards to saying it.
Wow. Well, that's something else. That is something else. You would think that the people that at least teach there and give money there would hold up, what the institution should be about. Um, but just to punk out without even
But wait
the
a minute, wait a minute. In this era of cancel culture,
hell yeah, they should stay. This is what we stand for. This is what we believe. And if you don't like it, then fuck you too. You ain't welcome.
look here, I can tell you'll never be in administration nowhere.
Mm-mm. Nah, I believe we got to stand our ground. Shit, fuck that. Mm-mm.
But see that ties into all of the ties into so many different things. You know, James Baldwin.
Mm.
What do we do with Baldwin and his genius and his contributions and what have you? A part of it is puts you inside of a box where you almost feel as if, how can I put this? You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. On the one hand, you're calling for black solidarity. On the other hand, you're serving as a tool that's preventing it because you're telling them that, if you can't calm this down, then you can't come. And so it's a wicked web. It is a wicked web that we
Mm.
have to deal with. And then especially when you're talking about the LGBTQ population, their reaction to this, and it's a reaction that, to be honest with you, I wholeheartedly understand. Many of their reaction has been to recede from us, and they create their own organizations. They create their own award shows. They create their own celebrations, and what have you. And their subculture, and I've seen this bruh, believe me, I've seen this in real time. Okay, they cordon off themselves from everybody else. So any resources, any hookups, any promotions, anything that could come, they save that for their own little circle.
Mm.
And so in many ways, you're dealing with a more discord and dysfunction and inability to get along amongst the people who are 13% of the population, unless you can get rid of these Mexicans. Okay. And we will not win like that. We will not.
Mm. That's very interesting, because it's like there's no way, and I'll use the nation for example. If a homosexual brother wanted to join the Nation of Islam, the answer would be you can't. You would have to give up that lifestyle. And
Let me ask you this:
mhm,
do you believe that there are homosexual brothers within the Nation of Islam right now?
no, mm-mm.
Why can't you believe that?
No, because that's just not in our culture. That's not in what we do.
So
That
you don't believe that a brother could join the Nation of Islam, because let's be honest, they're not feminine presenting, as they put it.
mm,
Okay, they present themselves like any other brother,
mm,
and they just know enough. They know that it will not be accepted there. That they go ahead and suppress it and never give any inklings in regards to that.
as long as they're not practicing their homosexuality, and if they have the tendencies but don't never act on it, and they're striving to be upright, then it's fine because they ain't broke no
Okay,
law.
let's see. That's something different right there.
But
Something
they ain't broke a law. They're not living a homosexual lifestyle. They're not performing homosexuality. That's different.
I get it. I agree with you. That's different, but they're still homosexual.
Well, you can't say that they're homosexual if they're not
Oh yeah,
partaking.
you can.
How you gonna do that if they're not partaking? That's like saying somebody an alcoholic but they never drank before. We can't do that.
They might be a reformed alcoholic.
Mm.
That's all I'm saying. It ain't like that. They ain't never dilly dallied or whatever. But they just know not to dilly dally over here. I know you saw. I know you remember this brother because he went viral. It's one of the most ridiculous moments in Black America, when he was up at the church and he's talking about, I don't like men's no more.
Yeah.
I'm delivered. I don't like men's no more. Now that's a feminine presenting brother right there. Y'all would look at him and be like, man, look here, man. Look, no. But I guarantee you that there is probably an element within every organization where they just don't show that side of them. And you'll hear when they talk about their family,
Mm-hmm.
they'll say my partner.
Mm-hmm.
And as somebody who listens very closely, I'll be like, okay, your partner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have a childhood friend who people have been trying to. Yeah, we know that the brother's gay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we do, but he ain't never came out as gay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I was having a conversation with him, and he says to me, yeah, me and my roommate. I was like, what's your roommate's name? Terry. And I'm like, see, that's one of them names that can go
Either way, yeah.
female.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a sort of a suppression, a self-regulation that one has to have if you're going to be a part of a group,
Mm-hmm.
or you go ahead and say, the hell with what is the tradition of the group, and you decide to go in at full force and try and change the culture of that group.
You know, we did have one.
So see, the audience, you see how the truth comes out when you listen, when you listen close enough. You just got to keep poking and prodding at these nation brothers, and then they'll let you know.
We did have one, and unfortunately, he was a freshman in college, and somewhere along that line, he got tapped, and you know, he wound up committing suicide, and the minister did a lecture on that. It's called Homosexuality and Suicide, or Suicide and Homosexuality. It's on YouTube, and the minister was hot, you know, because the brother name was Aaron, and he was telling his other, you know, members there that, you know, he almost committed suicide, and then nobody never said nothing, where, you know, that somebody could have helped him, could have saved them, you know, if they went and did what we're supposed to do, which is report all weakness, slackness, and wrongdoing. And they didn't do that. And so, you know, he wound up killing himself, dealing with that heavy weight that he was carrying, because it is.
But see, this becomes, and I find that interesting what you just said, because it opens up the question of, would he still have been viewed as a member of the Nation of Islam if he's carrying that weight and he's struggling with that? And it creates a moment. You know, I come out of the Baptist church, and I remember my pastor, Reverend Dr. Johnny R. Heckert, who talked about a compromising church. And he says that when you're living under the rule of God, that there is no room for compromise. Because if you begin to compromise and you begin to slide, next time you look up, you way over here, when you know that what the doctrine says is over there. So there has to be some standards. But at the same time that you say that, where we are today is not the same as where we began previously. Those are, you know, that's the yin and the yang of it. Because if we're talking about the old guard, white generated Baptist tradition, we're talking about slaves obey thy masters. So I just think that we all have to find our lane and make our decisions upon certain stuff.
Yeah. Well, you know, for me, like when I got in the nation, I had to do a year out on F times. And when you break a restrictive law,
whoa, what are we talking about? You said a year out.
Yeah.
Now we talking about homosexuality, and you
said no. Look at it. Mine was fornication, but it was with a woman.
You got to define out for us, because that, you know, because look here, you can get caught out there. Okay, I got caught out there one night, man. I was moonlighting at Houston Community College, HCC Central, and I love Black theater. And I was within walking distance where my car parked. It was not 15 feet away from the Ensemble Theater, the Black theater group. They were advertising this thing called a night out, and they were having food. They was having all kinds of stuff going on, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm gonna go teach my class. I'm gonna swing through the ensemble, see a play. You know, it's gonna be a good night. Okay. Man, I'm up in there. I'm eating and I'm having a good time. I did not know that the out in a night out meant out. And I was in the throes of a divorce, financially destitute. So I was like, this is a good deal right here. And I wound up, you know, after a while, I think after I came up from oxygen for eating all the meatballs and stuff, that the food was excellent. Okay, and I'm looking around, I'm like, wait a minute. What's going on up in here? You know, and that's how I ended up at a night out. You know,
Mm.
with no sisters trying to holler at me and nothing like that. And a brother or two came and sat on the bench next to me, and I gave what up? I had no idea that I had to slipped up because I didn't read the fine print. Okay, I did not read the fine print. I was looking forward to that, man. I said, man, they're gonna have food there and all that, man. I'm on my way. So that's why I'm asking for clarity, brother. When you use the word out, you said you was out for a year. It's better to ask than to draw your own conclusions.
Yeah, don't draw no conclusions. Stay right with me. Stay right with me. Don't go ahead. Just stay right with me.
Start piecing it together, brother. Talking about, he said this and then he said that. Come up with something that was never intended.
No, I did my year out. I was having a relationship with an MGT. We eventually got married. After we got back in, we got married. But yeah, that.
When the brothers went and told on you?
No, I told on this. Is that weight of that guilt.
Snitch. Oh boy.
That guilt, bro, I'm telling you, is I called up the brother captain. Brother captain, I gotta confess, brother. I've been fornicating. I remember him. What? God damn! You're one of the best soldiers I got. God damn!
At least we thought you was. Oh, say it ain't so.
Oh boy. All right. Well, we're at the end of our time, and this has really been a good program today, boy. Wow. So, Doc, with your closing comments, talk about what did Johnson and Johnson, or not Johnson Johnson, but what did Ebony and Jets, the magazine, what did it mean to us as a people? Because I think it first started as Negro Magazine or something like that.
The thing is that independent black periodicals that are representing our people, we took pride in them. That there was a certain standard. You didn't see some of the foolishness that you see now coming, out of during that time period when you had those periodicals. If you looked at Ebony, in essence, they taught black women what was appropriate dress. They taught black men what was appropriate dress. It was in many ways a conforming type of thing that was going on. That this is what a righteous black man and a righteous black woman looks like. This is what the black family should look like, and this is what the black family is at right now. And they backed it up with data and what have you. It was in many ways a call to arms for our people. I always revert back to the publishing of Emmett Lewis Till's body, his face and his torso, his upper torso in that magazine. It is what galvanized Black America. If you go back and you look at the interviews that Sister Rosa Parks gave in 1955, they asked her, what is it that you were thinking about while you were sitting there? And she said, I was thinking about Emmett Till. Now, if it's not for the black press, because she's in Alabama, he's killed in Mississippi, but he's raised and reared in Chicago, in a segregated Chicago, we must add. How did she know? There is no internet. There is no viral. She knew because number one, she was an activist, but number two, it was published in Jet magazine. And that is one of every generation has where were you at when it happened? This latest generation, where were you at is the death of Kobe Bryant. They can tell you where they were. Other people can tell you where they were when 9/11 occurred, when the towers fell. That's the role of the Black media, to inform, to inspire, to educate, and to, in many ways, go a great distance towards showing us who we are so that we can battle out and sift out what is positive and what is negative, and yet at the exact same time, manufacture consent so that we understand that at the end of the day, we are Black, and we are in many ways fighting a struggle against an enemy. And this enemy is sometimes it even looks like us, who is seeking to kill, maim, and destroy all of us. And I yield, brother. Great being here, man. Great show.
Most definitely. Thank you, Doc. Thank you. And we want to thank everybody that's in our audience. We want to thank everybody that chose to chime in our chat. Matt 285, peace and blessings, bro.
Thank you.
Christina Williams, peace and blessings, Queen. We're glad that you're here. Let's see who else we got in here. Myself, not in my name, peace and blessings. We're glad that you're here. Brother Willie Rivers, peace and blessings. We are glad that you all are here, and those that are still watching that even just did not leave a comment. We are glad that y'all here. We don't take anything for granted.
And if I can add this before we close out, if you come across a problem that you think that you can't solve, hit Mac up, because Mac is plugged into the underground economy in many different ways. Instead of referring to him as Mac, I humbly request that you change your name to I know a guy.
There we go. So we appreciate y'all coming. We love y'all. We thank y'all over and over and over again.
Yes.
You know, this is what we do, and we do it for you. As we always say, you kill the nigga in you, I'm gonna kill the nigga in me, and our God will reign supreme. We are Black first. Today, yesterday, and tomorrow. Max said he is the hookup. All right, then. All righty. Peace and blessings, y'all. Love y'all. So you better get the message and get it straight. You're going to need some bridge work. It's simple as that. Because we're living in judgment. We're living in implementation.